They usually start probably around like
Happy
12
Friday,
for the
everybody.
Pacific side.
Hope you are doing well and warm on this very, very chilly Friday morning. It is so cold outside, and if you don't have a coat for your pet, we have plenty of coats still in stock. And so you can come and visit us at either location and get a Worthy Dog coat or a Canada Pooch coat. It's going to be chilly this weekend, and in the days to come, winter is definitely not over, and we've been feeling it a lot in this last week. And so if you're in need of a pet coat, we've got plenty for you. My girls are wearing their Worthy Dog sweaters today, and they're nice and toasty warm. It is a cold day. But we're here to talk to you today about the Battle of the Bulge. So, pet obesity is a huge problem, and it can cause a lot of other health problems in addition to just having the excess weight. It can lead to cardiovascular issues, just like it can in humans, diabetes. It can be connected to a lot of different issues that can shorten the life of your pet. So, having a pet that weighs their ideal weight is important. And if you have a pet that needs to shed some pounds, we're here to help you. So I've got some tips and tricks and things to consider as you feed your pet so you can make sure your pet's getting the right amount of calories that they need, but then also that they're not getting some extras thrown in there that maybe aren't being considered when you are going throughout your day. Because sometimes we forget the donut we pick up and take a couple of bites out. And we forget that little snack we have after dinner before we go to bed. And all of those are additional calories. It's the same thing for our pets. When they go outside to go potty and get a reward for coming back in and doing the right thing, you hear that, girls? You get rewards for going outside and going potty. It's amazing. And if they are used to doing that, those rewards count as calories too. And so we have some ways to cut some calories, to cut some pet food calories during your meals, and some ways that you can pay a little bit closer attention to what you're feeding. So I was surveying my staff this morning, and none of them are brave enough to come on camera, but I wanted to ask them what are some of their weight loss tricks and tips, and how would they recommend people get weight off their pet. And Laura, who is our buyer and refused to come on camera, and I'm going to call her out for it, she just recently got a lot of weight off of her dog, Brack. And when I asked how and why, she said feeding her raw. So switching to a raw diet, she was able to get the weight off pretty easily. And she also has been able to keep that off of Brack. And Brack does very well on raw. Now, if you are a raw feeder, one of the really important things you have to do is pay attention to what you are feeding. So, feeding raw food, sometimes having a scale will help you, a food scale. And what you would do is take the bowl that you're feeding in, and you would weigh the bowl first on the food scale and get a tare weight, and then put the food in. And the box or the bag of what you're feeding is going to have directions on how many ounces a day your pet should be eating. And then you're going to need to divide that out into however many feedings you do. We do recommend having 2 feedings a day unless your pet's digestive system doesn't allow for that, or they have special needs where they need to just eat 1 time a day or need to eat 3 times a day. But you're going to want to measure out their food for their daily intake and make sure that you're measuring accurately. Now, this goes for any kind of feeding that you're doing, but if you're feeding raw, you're going to want to use a food scale with the bowl. If you're feeding kibble or if you're feeding canned, you want to use a scoop or, a measuring scoop. And these are great. These are made by Dexis. They're silicone. And so this is a half a cup. And what you would do is put it out like that, and it's a half a cup scoop. If you're feeding kibble, this is super easy to use because then you can clip it to the top of the bag to keep the bag sealed on the top, and then put your bag down in an airtight container. And then this is always connected to that bag and makes it really easy to measure out how much your pet needs. We have them in half a cup, and then we also have a 2 cup. But these are perfect for measuring. Now, when I say measure, if your pet needs to be eating half a cup twice a day, that does not mean fill this up and round the top. That means fill this up to the top and scrape off the excess. That is one of the most common mistakes that is made when overfeeding your pet, is rounding the measuring cup or just filling the bowl. I don't know how much they get. I just fill the bowl. Don't do that, because you want to make sure that your pet is taking in the proper amount of calories. So measuring it out is really, really important. You want to make sure you know how much your pet is getting. The other thing to be aware of is that bag directions on the bag of kibble, any of the directions are guidelines for how much your pet should eat. But that doesn't mean that your pet needs that much, or maybe they need more. It depends on their metabolism. It depends on their activity level. And it just depends in general on that pet food, what the ingredients are, how quickly they digest it, or how many carbohydrates are in that food. It all makes a big difference. So you want to make sure that you're feeding the proper amount for your pet. Let me give you some examples. I have 7 dogs, and out of my 7 dogs, they all get different amounts, even some of them that are the same size. Aurora Rose and her little buddy, Hey Hey. Aurora doesn't require nearly as much as Hey Hey does. He is much higher energy. And on just raw food alone, I'm not able to keep his weight up. So I do have to feed him some kibble. He gets supplemented with some kibble with some carbohydrates to help him keep his weight up. Aurora Rose, on the other hand, really doesn't get nearly as much as the recommended daily intake. And so her daily intake's a little bit lower than the recommended daily intake. Maybe it's because she's a little bit lazy for her age. And so you just want to use your pet's waistline as a guide. If you notice that you cannot feel their ribs, they're too chunky. They should have a nice shape. They should have a nice tuck up underneath their belly. Their belly shouldn't hang down. It definitely shouldn't touch the ground. And they should have a nice bit of an hourglass figure. And if you have any questions about what your pet should look like, we're going to have a guide posted here in our store in our new freezer room above our pet food or our pet scale. And that'll show you what your pet should look like in their ideal shape. And you can come to our store and weigh your pet. My recommendation is to weigh them at the same time every week and at the same time in the day. So just like we should weigh ourselves at the same time during the day, you should do that to your pet too, to make sure you get an accurate reading as you're preparing for them to lose weight. Now, some ways to cut calories in a pet's diet to get the weight off is using pumpkin. So we have Fruitables weight loss supplement, and this is a very easy supplement. You just use a couple tablespoons of pumpkin. And what pumpkin does is it helps give the bulk, the fiber, to your dog's belly, but not give the extra kcals for your pet's waistline. So this keeps them from feeling so hungry as you take away some of their kibble. You can take away up to 25% of their meal and replace it with pumpkin. And that will help you start getting the weight off of your pet. Do that each meal and monitor the progress. But the Fruitables weight loss supplement has other things in it to also help jumpstart their weight loss. Natural Balance has a line called Fat Dogs, which we really like. They have the dry kibble and a wet food. They also have it in the cat line. But this is also another great weight loss food that we find really works to get the weight off. Farmina also has a weight management food. They have both canned and dry. And so, again, if you're looking for low-cal foods and you want to start getting the weight off, this is another great way to do it. We love Farmina. And you definitely want to pay attention to the ingredients in the food, the calories that you're feeding. Not all food is created equally. The more carbohydrates in the food, kind of the more weight that they're going to put on, because those carbohydrates channel into sugar. They transition into sugar during the digestion process, and they can really lend themselves to weight gain, just like for us. If we have a very bread-heavy diet, we're going to pack on the pounds. That's why the pandemic hasn't been kind to some of us. So be careful of those carbohydrates. Pay attention to what carbs are in your pet's food. That's one of the reasons that raw works really well to take weight off, is because there are generally low or no carbohydrates in raw diets. So one other really quick way that you need to pay attention to what you're feeding is treats. So these are all 2 kcal treats. So if your pet really requires crunch for going outside and going potty, or some kind of reward, or they like just some kind of treat throughout the day, make sure that you're paying attention to how many kcals are in the treats. These are some that are 2 calories. These are by From. They're cranberry liver recipe. And you see they're small, but they are definitely a nice little crunchy treat. These are liver recipe by From. And then From also has these fun little Crunchios. They're a little bit like Cheerios. They have them in lots of different flavors, but very crunchy and serve very nicely as a treat. If you're doing, an activity mat or something for your pet, using really low calorie treats is a great thing to do because you're not going to pack on the pounds. This is Lotus, our friends from Lotus. They're soft baked treats. Again, 2 kcals, and they have them in several different proteins. But we really like our friends at Lotus and like these kcal treats. My dogs like those a lot. And then this is Honest Kitchen. So if your dog likes something meaty and a little bit more jerky-like or tender, these are their meaty littles. They're training treats. And again, they're 2 kcals. And they come in a couple of different flavors. So consider the treats that you're giving. If you don't want to give a reward like this, you can also give things like blueberries, strawberries, carrots, although carrots can turn into sugar or do turn into sugar, so be careful how many carrots you're given. But healthy treats like that are something to pay attention to because we often don't include them in the kcal intake, and it's a very easy way for them to pack on additional weight that we just don't count. We think those are magical non-caloric treats. So those are some of our tips and tricks. And we hope that you'll share some tips and tricks with us. But like I said, in our new freezer room, if you haven't been to the Battleground location, we have a new room devoted just to our frozen food. And we have added a lot more gently cooked products. And you can come check out that room, weigh your pet on our scale. And I'm going to put a picture over the top of that scale that shows you ideal weights. And you can kind of look and see where your pet falls on that scale and make sure that you're paying attention to that waistline. It is very important to get that weight off your pet. Obviously, I have dachshunds, and additional weight for them often means back surgeries, which are really expensive. And, things like diabetes require insulin. And one of the real interesting things about when dogs become diabetic is once they're diabetic, there's no going back. It's unlike humans. Often we can control diabetes. Some diabetes with our diet. You can't do that with dogs. Once they're diabetic, you cannot get them back off of insulin very easily. So you definitely want to avoid that as much as you possibly can and avoid all the other health problems that come along with obesity and pets. House cats are really prone to obesity because we feed them dry food. And the easiest thing I can tell you to get weight off of a cat is to transition them to an all-wet diet as much as you possibly can and really limit the dry food that they get. Cats should not have carbohydrates. They are obligate carnivores, and those carbohydrates we put in their dry food really lend themselves to heavier house cats. So get them on an all-wet diet, as wet as you possibly can, and either wet food or raw or freeze-dried, rehydrated with water, and get that weight off of your kitty cat. So I hope you guys are doing well. If you guys have any questions, feel free to, of course, post them in the comments, and we will get answers back to you. If you need specific guidance on nutrition for your pet, you can always come into either store location, and my sales associates can assist you in finding a pet food that matches your pet's needs. And we will have our scales set up. So we hope to see you bringing in your pets and weighing them to make sure that they're a perfect weight, and let us know how we can help you to make them the perfect weight. Join us next week for our February box reveal. We will be revealing what our February box is going to be and everything that will be in it. They were really good boxes. So we're excited. We did sell out of our January boxes. We no longer have any left. And if you are interested in getting a February box, you want to watch next week and go ahead and purchase your box ahead of time because they will go fast. They have been flying out the door, and we sell out usually by the end of the first week. You guys have a great weekend. We will see you very soon, and we will talk to you next Friday with our box reveal.